All right, this is Josh. I don't know where the rest of our class is at the moment, but hopefully they'll join us soon. Do you want to introduce yourself at this point? I totally screwed this up.
Sure. Yes, I'm director of content development at PvP Live, which is an eSports media company. Esports being competitive video gaming. So if you've heard of League of Legends or Hearthstone or Dota 2 or Counter-Strike or any of those, that's what we do. Right now, this company is in development mode, so everything is under wraps. We are working on 3 different products we were going to launch earlier, but we got some newer, better investors, and so we're going to take a little bit of extra time. Other than that, my history in social media, because that's what everybody's interested in. I started out, my career in social media started at the same time, really, that Twitter started. It was very early 2007 at a South by Southwest that Twitter unveiled to the public. It had previously existed, but this was their big coming out. And I got an account and was just enamored with it and took off from there. And went from social media by myself to social media covering the presidential campaign in 2008, Democratic convention and the Republican convention, and a lot of the street events that were happening around that, the protests and the marches and so forth. I then moved on to doing social media as part of media development, and media development is a worker sort of, let's put it into that category. State Department does it, the World Bank does it, the IMF does it, United Nations does it, and it is essentially going to other countries with, say, underdeveloped media systems or conflict zones or war zones, which is mostly where we focused on Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Sudan, Gaza, etc. And essentially teaching them how to incorporate social media into their citizen journalism projects. From there on to Matt's former home of Haven Comics, where we use social media to do a lot of retail reach out to the community, but rather than it being a global audience or a national audience, it is a very small audience, locally based in Huntsville. And from there on to social media here at PvP Live, where we did essentially marketing around our beta events and the beta website. And now I'm here talking to you. What's up, Matt?
Hey, Josh. Just came back from spring breaks for this, so very special. Can you talk about what the differences are between running social media campaign for, between trying to promote a new company like PvP Live versus small you've already touched on this a bit, but the small local company like Haven versus trying to reach a global audience with something like the DNC, the RNC. What's the difference in how you have to talk to your audience?
So the current buzzword that we use in marketing, especially marketing to millennials, which is all of you, specifically gamers, the big buzzword is authenticity, which is that the audience has to recognize you as 100% competent and sincere and knowledgeable and essentially as one of us. So for each one of those, it has to have that authenticity. So when I'm talking about, let's say, Afghanistan, and we're doing Alive in Afghanistan, doing the media development for that sort of thing, number one is knowledge of what you're talking about, access, proving to the people that want that information that you are one of them, and that you're a credible source, and that you're not at all detached from it. Now, on Haven, that's a little easier because nearly every social interaction is reinforced and backed up by an in-person interaction. So the customers come in and they hang out with us, and we talk about comics, of course, and we talk about movies and all of that. And then the social media backs that up, that lets them know that, hey, this is your friend that's up there that you hang out with on Wednesdays when you go to pick up your books. This is the same guy. Now, where they differ, where they break off, is that with Haven, it's a little bit more talking to a closed group. If you are following Haven, you are generally already a Haven customer. You're already part of that community. So you don't need a lot of salesiness to it. You just need a sort of reinforcement, a constant reason to come back. If you haven't been in a while, well, we keep posting events or we keep posting new stuff. And it's also to give them something entertaining along the way. So with Haven, I post a lot of cool articles, top 10, ways that DC has messed up Superman, something like that. Just to give people a reason that as they're reading, they're not just reading sales or reading a marketing call to action. You're just giving them entertainment because that's what they get if they come into the store. If they read the Twitter, they get some fun stuff to talk about, some fun commentary. If they come into the store, they get the same thing. We'll talk to them, we'll hang out with them, we'll talk about cool stuff.
Well, what about, you mentioned at the DNC and the RNC, you started using Twitter, and that was your introduction to social media. I've heard your story before about this, but can you share that about how you had to start using Twitter out of necessity for getting your message out?
Yeah, so at the DNC, let's go to the RNC. The RNC was the biggest. At the DNC, we used it for basically coordinating things, which was a pretty new use for Twitter at the time. So rather than a website saying, hey, on Wednesday this is going to happen, we really utilized that real-timeness of, hey, right now at the corner of 5th and Main, this is happening. The next week at the RNC, which is the Republican National Convention, it was a completely different environment. There's a much more aggressive police presence, and so there's a lot more violence, a lot more gassing and things like that. And so what we used Twitter for, or specifically what I used Twitter for, was to call out where the police were, what was happening, and the specific locations, specific times, utilizing photos, although at the time it was much harder to use photos with Twitter. You had to post them somewhere else and then put a link in. But we would say, oh, look, we've got 10 police cars, and it looks like a mounted unit. They are staging at this block, and the protest is moving up. We think there's going to be a kettling, which is where they surround them and make everybody freak out, and it boils like a kettle, and then you have the crowd violence. So we sort of pioneered the use of what is pretentiously called open source intelligence, which is actionable information that comes from just free public sources. I wasn't putting this in a private IRC chat or anything like that. It was going out to the world. And that really got a lot of attention because nobody had ever really seen Twitter used like that before, that really take advantage of the real-time nature of it versus a Facebook where you don't know. I could post something on Facebook, you could see it immediately, you could see it 2 days from now, whatever. On Twitter, it is absolutely real-time. And we use that to our advantage to call out the police, let every other protester who would start following us where they were. And we also came up with something pretty innovative. It actually started a couple of weeks before. It was called a hashtag, where you put a pound sign in front of your word, and then other people could copy and paste that, not click on it yet, but they could copy and paste that into Twitter search and find everything. Eventually, obviously, we all know what hashtags are, and you just click on it and it works. That was invented around that time, summer of 2008.
Interesting. That's cool.
And now we abuse them.
Yeah. I'm okay with the hashtags. I'm okay. You can hashtag whatever you want.
How about setting up channels like Alive in Baghdad, Alive in Tehran, Alive in Afghanistan? What brought you to those countries to do? I mean, some of those you were actually in country doing that, and what prompted that, and what was that like?
Really, it came down to The political stuff, doing working with the uptake and covering the first the conventions and then the rest of the fall campaign, that was sort of an accident. When I originally started blogging and calling myself a citizen journalist, I had focused almost exclusively on foreign policy. At the time, the Iraq War was raging. The country was against it. This was the height of what we called the War on Terror, which is a phrase that's not really used anymore. And specifically, how I segued into the uptake from that was the presidential campaign had started, and in fact, the first and really only story related to the presidential campaign I covered was Biden and his statement on Pakistan purchasing planes from China. That got me noticed by the uptake, and I got into this political world. Immediately after that, I got pulled back into Small World News because Small World News had started up a show called Alive in Baghdad. And the shtick behind Alive in Baghdad is that unlike an American reporter who goes to Baghdad and reports live from Baghdad, we would instead go to these locations, give them cameras, give them training, give them the web infrastructure they needed to get things uploaded and posted and whatnot, and then we would let them report alive in Baghdad. Now, the guy that created that at the time, during the Democratic Convention of 2008, went over to China to work with some friends to teach them how to do a peaceful protest. While he was there, he was arrested. The guys he was working with were pretty sloppy. They got the attention of the authorities. He was arrested, thrown in a Chinese prison, and I took this sudden burst of attention that I had from working with the uptake and paired that up to all of these tech contacts I had made, because very early on when Twitter was first starting, it was only bloggers and people that maintain RSS feeds about the iPhone and really techie, nerdy Silicon Valley type guys. By the time it was 2008, those guys had already gotten huge. These are people like Robert Scoble, Chris Pirillo, etc. These are big names in the sort of tech sphere now, but at the time they had 17 followers, and it was easy to start up a conversation with them. So I exploited that network and the little attention I was getting from the uptake work and started a campaign to get Brian released by the Chinese. Whether or not it was me and my pitching a fit over it that did it, he eventually got out. His wife saw what I was doing when he was locked up in China, and she said, "You need to give that guy a job." So when Brian got home, I immediately started working with Alive in Baghdad. And that lasted, I did subtitling, I wrote the blogs, I did a lot of the back end. Getting video out of Baghdad now is really complicated. Back then it was even more difficult. It involved them shooting it onto Flash Media and then FedExing that to the Kurdish regions where we could upload it with email or with solid internet access, etc. Then the success of Alive in Baghdad, we won a Streamy, we won a Webby, that launched a whole slew of Alive in projects, which is the Alive in Gaza, Alive in Egypt, Alive in Libya, Alive in Mexico, Alive in India, a lot of them, a lot of places, live in a lot of places. And so, yeah, the social media side of that. First of all, the social media obviously got me the job because of the social media campaign to basically lose my mind about the Chinese holding an American prisoner and hope that somebody big enough, like these big tech guys who could plug it into their networks, would get that word out. Once these Alive in projects were actually up and running, we used social media for two things, really. One was recruitment. So we would constantly be running searches in English and Arabic and French and German and a bunch of other languages looking through Twitter, looking for keywords, and we'd find somebody tweeting from Gaza or tweeting in Afghanistan, and hook up with them there and then pull them into the program. The second use was to talk to influencers and the people that we actually wanted to use the material from live-in programs. So that meant talking to a lot of journalists and freelancers and photographers and news editors and all of that good stuff, and making sure that not only did they know what we were doing and what we were about, but then they were then using that information for their own reporting, citing us as a source and letting their networks know that we existed and that we had a use for them. I know I'm going super fast. I'm trying to make last time so we don't keep anybody after class.
Oh, we're good. So moving then into eSports, which is a totally different realm than the political stuff, how is social media involved in your job now? And what do you see the role of social media in games in general? Do you think that it's important for games to have a social media element? Does that benefit a game, or does it benefit maybe the developer who, in a game like something as simple as Clash of Clans, that you see what your friend's town looks like, and therefore you're prompted to say, I want to get that castle to play more?
Yeah, so I think it's important to distinguish between social features and social media. In that sense, I see social media as it's much smaller than it used to be, even though more people are on it. The ecosystem is much smaller. We're really talking about Twitter and Facebook. If we're generous, we can add Google Plus in there. I know we're talking on Google Plus right now, but it is really nothing compared to Twitter and Facebook. And if you want to get even more generous, we can say Reddit, right? Those are more of a platform now, in that if you want to talk to anybody, that's where they are. In the old days, you might say, oh, well, we have a business we want to promote. We need a commercial. We need a radio ad. We need a print ad. None of those things work anymore. You have to go out and talk to people. And where are people talking? They're talking on Twitter. They're talking on Facebook. And then the social features of a game. Let's come back to the social features, because that's an interesting question all by itself. In social media, going on that concept of you go to where people are, then esports plays with social media in as much as you're doing marketing. So you are saying, hey, we have an event coming up, and you're doing all the marketing things like, hey, if you post a picture with your tweet, it's going to get X% more engagement. If you post a link to something, if you post at this time of day, 1:30 p.m. Central is prime time for Twitter, and like 4:30 Eastern is prime time for Facebook, something like that. So there's that marketing side, but you're also always using it to come back to that authenticity argument, that you're really showing that your brand exists, but your brand is just like you. So you're a fan of esports. Well, guess what? Our brand is a fan of esports. And you love League of Legends. Well, our brand loves League of Legends. That way, especially with millennials, the fallacy is that millennials don't trust brands. That's false. Millennials love brands. They love big corporations. They love big things, especially when they're called Harry Potter and Spider-Man and Guardians of the Galaxy, right? So the difference is they don't like brands or corporations that they feel are somehow not authentic or not sincere or not smart. And so you're using social media for the marketing side, get your message out, yada, yada, but you're really using it to show that there isn't really a line between the brand and the audience. And to that extent, we've even really moved away from using the word community, because the community, that phrase puts a wall up where there really isn't one. So, for example, let's take the World of Warcraft community, right? Like, I played World of Warcraft. I was very serious, super into it. Now I have everyday interactions with Blizzard, who's the game developer, and we deal with their esports department all the time. And just because I now have inside information both about PvP Live and about Blizzard, does that really make me not part of the community? I'd argue no. I'd argue that whatever information I want, I still go to the same blogs as the community, I watch the same podcasts as the community, and I follow the same people on Twitter. That's really embodies that authenticity idea that you're not, there is no difference between the audience and the brand and really the people behind the brand.
How do you move from something like the political stuff you were doing? How did you end up jumping into esports? I mean, I know that's just personally that's just something you love. You love both of those things, but how do you make that leap?
So I was freelancing was very boring, whereas with citizen journalism, I was covering presidential elections at Small World News. I was doing things that were, earth-shattering, covering revolutions in Egypt and Libya, and the war in Iraq and Afghanistan and the occupation and all of that. And then I went to freelancing like an idiot and got a bunch of stupid jobs where for a major American game console manufacturer, I'm not allowed to identify the name, but there is only one major North American video game console manufacturer. I went to work for them on their online service, working on how their customer support talked to the audience, which was my first introduction to this idea of authenticity. And granted, they were way off from where we are now, but that was the beginning of it. I also worked for the Quakers, who had a political cause to get the military recruiters out of public schools. So it was a big drop-off importance-wise. If every day you wake up and your job is to be a part of the revolution in Libya, that's amazing. That's a reason to get out of bed in the morning. When every day you get out of bed to figure out how to change the scripts at a call center for Xbox Live, that's less important and less interesting. And then
hypothetically, Xbox Live, right?
Sure, hypothetically, yeah. Could also be any number of other North American console manufacturers, like Coleco and Magnavox, right? We all know they're big into it. And then what I liked about freelancing, though, was the break from the life or death situations. I can't tell you in the citizen journalism world or the OSINT world or anything like that how many times you see what it looks like when somebody is hit with a smart bomb, what it looks like when the government open fires on a crowd, what it looks like when a death squad has been to your house, right? You see that every day, all day long. And that gets really tiresome. So I decided I was done with freelancing, and I was ideally done with that sort of subject matter every single day. And I was big into Warcraft, and this eSports thing was blowing up, and which it had already blown up before, but I wasn't able to really give attention to it. So my experience of it, I know eSports from 1997 to 2004, and then to me it just stopped. But there was this whole video game community thing. As gamers were starting to pick up social media, they were starting to blog, they were starting to podcast. And so I decided I was going to do the same thing I had done freelance Small World News, which is media development, teach people how to improve the quality of their content, professionalize the quality of their content, get their content seen, get their content promoted on social media, and all of the stuff around media development, which in the US we have developed media, so you just call it content creation. And the CEO of PvP Live, whose PvP Live didn't quite exist, but he saw my blog, which I started, which is about gaming media development and how to take all of these blogs and podcasts and stuff that we like and bridge the gap between that, the amateur, I'm in my basement, I'm on Skype with headphones and there's like ugly fluorescent lighting, take that and take it to television broadcast standards with graphics and audio and a runtime. And I did that blog for 2 weeks, and the CEO of PvP Live found me, and he said, hey, you know, we're doing the same thing. You want quality. I'm trying to get that quality at my business. Would you come and talk to our bloggers? Because he had assembled a little team of bloggers. So I said, sure. Just like what I'm doing right now, it was just a hour-long talk about the basics of being a blogger, how to write, how to express an opinion, how to back up your facts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And after that talk, Casey basically said, well, that was great. You can keep going on your blog on the outside, or you can take all that stuff you say that you like quality and professionalism and great content, and you can come inside and you can make it happen. And I took that opportunity. That sounded like a good offer to me, that I would rather be on the inside trying to make it happen than on the outside complaining that it's not happening.
Does anybody else have questions for Josh related to any of the social media stuff we talked about?
I know I've gone really fast and I'm all over the place. I'm sorry.
I had a question earlier, but I don't remember it now.
We actually have a eSports tournament scheduled this week at UAB. It's the first one that's BlazerCon. I think it's Saturday. So 24-hour eSports tournament we're hosting here.
But what game or games?
I don't know. I've just found out about it. Someone wrote it on while I was away and sent it to me.
That's really cool. Yeah, the college is really the next frontier in esports. Esports right now has a problem with the talent pool. The way that you get famous as a player now is that you play to the top of the ladder. If your game title supports a ladder, so on League of Legends, there's tiers that you achieve through. On CS:GO, there's a matchmaker.
Can you explain a little bit about what esports is for folks who aren't aware of what esports is?
Yeah, so video games, we all know what video games are. Esports is people who are paid to professionally play those video games in competition with one another, and that can be 1 versus 1, like Hearthstone, or that can be... Sorry, what?
I said maybe we shouldn't have waited until the end to explain that, but...
right, yeah. See, I probably should have broke that down sooner. But yeah, video games are great. The esports is separate in that these are the people that are the best in the world at playing those video games, and now we pit them against each other, and that's their career. Sort of like if you are really good at football, you can...
Is that any type of video game or just sports video games?
Any type of video game. And in fact, sports video games don't make good esports because they already exist in real life. So I can't shoot you with a gun or cast a magic spell at you, so I do that in video games. But if I want to throw a ball or, you know, catch a fly ball, I can do that in real life. It works best with video games. If it already exists in real life, then what's...
So like Smash Brothers?
Smash Brothers absolutely is a huge esports title, huge community behind it. In fact, it's one of my favorite communities because they're casters. The guys that give the play-by-play commentary and stuff, you'll see them with the big, ugly headphones like this. You know, oh, this guy just hit that guy. Those guys in Smash are insane, and the players are awesome because they go nuts. They all have very specific rules. I can't play this game until I have my Nintendo 64 controller from home, and we have to use this special kind of TV with this special refresh rate, or else I can't play, and it's hilarious. Smash is awesome. Smash is a great scene.
And how did you say that the players are chosen again? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so right now you achieve the top you can in the game, and then from that merit you are then invited to tournaments, and at the point that you are participating in a tournament you are considered a pro, and the more you win, especially the more money you win at these tournaments, the more pro you are. Now, obviously, that is nothing like traditional sports where you play in high school, then your high school merit gets you in at college. You play in college. Your college merit gets you in on the pro level, and then the pros compete to see who's the best. So I play football in high school, then I play for the college, then I get a job, and I go play for the Cowboys, and then the Cowboys win the Super Bowl. That's how it works. Right now, that the Cowboys can go to the colleges and recruit players. There is no college to go to for eSports. So that whole mess of until you are a pro and until you're on a pro team, that's what college is designed to fix in traditional sports. It doesn't exist in eSports, although in the last 2 years, really the last year, that's changing. Blizzard, for example, just launched their Heroes of the Dorm tournament, which is where only college students are allowed to participate in the tournament. It's open sign-up, and the winners are playing for a scholarship and not actual prize money. League of Legends also has, I think, George Washington University and somewhere else. The League of Legends by their developer Riot Software. They are doing a similar college esports program.
Okay, so I have a question now. How long does it take you to get to pro status?
How long? Depends on how good you are. But much like
you show up at the top of the arcade thing at the local pizza joint, you have to get your initials on top. Right.
Something like that. That is actually where esports traces its history to the high score competitions of the 70s. Way to show your age, Matt. The time length right now is really goes game by game. However, once you are pro, that's when the time difference really takes effect, because if I'm a pro League of Legends player and you're a pro League of Legends player, we're both pro, right? But if I practice 10 hours a week and you're practicing 50 hours a week, there's going to be a big difference in how we play, because just being a pro means you're the best in the world. Within that top 1% of players, there's a huge skill cap or skill base between pretty good and the greatest, right? Like there's a difference between LeBron James and the 19th man on the Blazers or whatever, right? And once you're pro, then the time comes in, then the skill comes in.
Throw that in any opportunity.
All right, what else?
It's giggling about. I see. You two. Yes, you, Matt.
Yes. What about me?
What are you guys giggling about?
No, I said for you, AB.
She's trying to get this so that I can't publish the video.
Oh. Sorry, I didn't say anything.
It's an ongoing controversy at our school. No, I absolutely can't.
An ongoing controversy. That sounds right up my alley.
Yeah. Our football
Yes,
program is canceled. Yeah.
Would you like to help in this movement?
I live for ongoing controversies. My life is an ongoing controversy.
I'm amazed we've gotten through this without any swearing.
Oh, yeah, I did better this time, huh?
Yeah.
I did the same chat in October and forgot that you shouldn't say the F word every 5 minutes when you're trying to do a real video.
Does anybody else have questions for Josh? No? Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, Josh.
Thank you for having me. Any esports fans, you need to get them to contact me, because we are a startup and college kids like jobs and we like college kids. So
I will try and drop that at the BlazerCon if I can make it over there this weekend.
Okay.
And Manson is playing in town this month. So.
Yeah, I know, and not here in Texas. So almost caught me. Almost created a controversy. But screw you, because he's not playing in Texas.
All right. Well, thanks, Josh.
No problem. Thanks very much for having me, guys.
Sure.
Bye.
Yeah, you can click it.